These are the printers, products, and filaments that I've been using on a daily basis while running this channel. And this can act as a holiday gift guide of sorts for you lazy bums who haven't bought your holiday gifts yet. So I'm going to break this video up into 3 categories. First I'll go over my favorite 3D printers, then my favorite 3D printer mods, and then my favorite filaments of 2021. Let's start with my favorite 3D printers. These are printers that I'd recommend for anyone getting into the hobby, or if you're looking to pick up an extra machine. These are the machines that I'd recommend to put at the top of your list. The printer that takes first place in my book is the Voxlab Aquila, coming in at an average sale price of $179. This is simply the best value 3D printer I've ever come across. The Voxlab Aquila has all of the same specs and features as the more expensive Ender 3 V2. I even did a video where I compared the two side by side, and I couldn't find any noticeable differences. The next printer that I recommend is the one that I use most often, and that's the Fucus Odin 3D printer. It offers some great features, including dual Z-axis lead screws, ribbon cables for super clean wire management, the direct drive extruder, a fully enclosed electronics department, and upgraded yellow bed springs. It has a unique folding mechanism that allows you to unbox the printer and start printing within minutes. And its build quality is comparable to printers that cost twice as much. I fitted mine with a Biku H2 hot end and a couple other upgrades. I documented all of these upgrades in another video, so if you want to learn more about that, I'd recommend you check that video out. Another thing I like about it is that it's really sturdy and easy to pick up and move around, and it's got a really narrow profile, so it doesn't take up a lot of space on your shelves or your desk. After putting all these upgrades into this machine, I think it's one of the finest 3D printers I've ever used, so it definitely secures second place in the best printers of 2021 in my book. Creality's Ender 3 platform gets an honorable mention for being the first budget 3D printer to offer great quality at a really low price. Though I'd like to see Creality make more offerings that are in the sub $300 price range. A lot of their newer machines cost $600, $700, even $1,000. So they're kind of straying from their roots, and their budget entries are starting to be less competitive than other 3D printers on the market. Alright, now we're moving on to the next section of the video, which is the best 3D printer upgrades. Now if any of you are fans of the channel, you should already know what my favorite upgrade is for 3D printers. That's right, it's silent fans. So as an example, I've taken this printer right here and made it super quiet. It's actually running right now, and you can see it down here. This giant fan moves a ton of air and barely makes any noise at all. And that's how I like my printers. I also like to put these squash ball feet on a lot of my printers because they dampen the vibrations that come from the printer. The easiest way to go about adding silent fans to your machine is to get some of these small 24 volt fans, and you can just plug these directly into your printer in place of the old ones that were really loud. They're the same size and shape, and they run off the same voltage. They're just a lot quieter and they move less air. If you've got more money to blow, you can always buy some Noctua fans too, which are generally known as being the highest quality and the quietest for the amount of air that they move, but you don't really need to go this route unless you just want the nicest, most reliable, quietest fans on the market. Another upgrade that's pretty cheap is buying one of these dual gear extruders. This is just a BMG clone dual gear extruder. So the dual gears will give you a lot more traction on the filament, so you'll have less under extrusion issues. And the gear reduction helps you get a lot more torque out of the motor. At about $17, this is a solid upgrade because it gets rid of under extrusion issues. You can use it in a Bowden setup or a direct drive setup. I even use one of these on my Super Volcano build, so it even works well on those high feed rate applications. Another upgrade I can heartily recommend is the Biku H2 extruder / hot end. It's pretty lightweight because it uses a really small stepper motor. I use the Biku H2 on one of my favorite builds, so this is something that I use on a regular basis, and it's shown to be pretty reliable. Apparently they came out with a second version that has smoother running gears and comes with an all-metal heat break, and while these are welcome changes, I haven't had any issues with my copy of the version 1 hot end. Another upgrade that I've really enjoyed using is this Microswiss direct drive dual gear extruder kit. Microswiss products are built to the highest levels of quality, and their team clearly pays attention to detail in the design and manufacture of their products. The $99 price tag for this full kit may seem steep at first, but when you consider it comes with a nice extruder, hot end, nozzle, and all the bits and pieces needed to install it, it actually ends up being a decent value. Another upgrade I like putting on my printers is anything involving a Klemco mount. I've used a lot of these in my videos because it's super convenient and it allows you to adapt almost any type of hot end onto your 3D printer. Klemco also provides STLs for adding a direct drive extruder to your machine, so that's really handy because direct drive extruders are one of my favorite upgrades to add to any 3D printer. If you look closely on my Ender 3000 build, you can see it's based on a Klemco mount, and I have the direct drive extruder adapter on top. Plus it's got these convenient mounting holes that you can use to attach fans and stuff. So this has got to be one of the highest performing hot ends on the market right now. The Phaetus Rapido hot end. Thanks to its small form factor, lightweight, high temperature range, and the ability to hold temperatures with very little air, its design is seriously on another level when you compare it to the typical hot ends that use a big chungus block of copper to distribute the heat. I just made a video on this hot end, and it performs excellently. Upgrading nozzles is also a really cheap and easy way to get better performance out of your 3D printer. But I have a whole nother video on nozzle selection for 3D printers, so I'll leave a link to that in the video description. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced 3D printer, nothing takes the fun out of 3D printing like waking up in the morning and seeing that your print came detached from the bed halfway through and you've just got a gigantic pile of spaghetti. And oftentimes when a part comes detached, you can actually damage the printer. So making sure you have really good bed adhesion is important. These spring steel sheets are kind of like magic. They have ideal properties for when you're printing and you want stuff to stick to it, but as soon as you're done printing and you take this off and just flex it, everything just pops off. I found these spring steel PEI sheets to be ideal for printing PLA and PETG, and I like these textured surfaces more than the smooth ones. I've printed hundreds of parts on beds like this, and it never damages the print surface. Another really cheap upgrade is to get some masking tape or this blue painter's tape, and that really gets PLA to stick to the print surface. So if you've ever had your PLA prints failing to stick or coming off midway through a print, try out some of this blue painter's tape because it's a really cheap mod and it works really well in my experience. And if you're having adhesion issues with PETG or nylon, this Uhu glue stick works really well. I've used other types of glue stick that don't work as well as this Uhu stuff, so the brand does matter. And for the best quality adhesion for nylon, I found is to have some blue painter's tape and then put Uhu glue stick on top of it. And I never have any issues with that stuff coming loose. So running this 3D printing channel, I've had an opportunity to use a lot of different filaments. So I'm going to go over some of the best filaments that I've used in 2021. I'll start with one of my favorites, and that's Duramic filament. I have about 30 different filaments on tap, but I always reach for the Duramic first. My personal favorite is the matte gray PLA. It's more of a grippy surface, so if you're making a tool or some kind of functional item that you need to get a better grip on, this matte PLA might be a good choice for that. Duramic has a new line of neat PLA and is wound neatly on the spool to reduce the likelihood of tangles or jams. And it ships on these eco-friendly cardboard spools. Duramic also offers a line of PETG filaments that come in a number of great color options, like this shiny silver filament here, and this bright safety orange color. If you take a look at these two prints side by side, the one on the left is the Duramic and the one on the right is one of the competitors. As you can see, there's a huge print quality difference. These two objects were printed with the exact same G-code. If you take a close look at this print, you'll see the print quality is almost perfect. And that's one of the reasons why I really like using Duramic filament. Duramic offers consistent performance and excellent value, so it'll continue to be my filament of choice. Some other good brands of filament are Prusament, which I don't have any here, but I've printed literally kilometers of it at my last job. It's made by the same company that makes Prusa printers. I could definitely recommend it for quality, and they sell it in a lot of unique and cool colors, but the only downside to it is it's kind of expensive. They have great quality control and packaging, so it just makes your printing experience really nice and easy. Another good company for 3D printer filament is Overture. They've been making 3D printer filament for a long time, and they're pretty good at it. Though this latest batch that I got from them kind of had sloppy winding, and I think it caused a little bit of under extrusion issues on one of my prints. But having gone through kilometers of this filament in the past, I think their quality is pretty consistent overall. Another feature that I always like is when they include a little scale on the spool that tells you how much filament you have left. Now I haven't tried this filament yet, but this is sold by Voxelab. A lot of people say that the filament that comes with their printers when they buy a Voxelab Aquila is actually pretty darn good stuff, and they're actually selling this on Amazon now. So you can buy an entire spool of this Voxelab 3D printer filament. Based on what I've heard in the YouTube comments sections and in other YouTube videos, people really like this stuff. Let's get to the #1 super performing material that I tested in 2021. And that would be this carbon fiber nylon from Phaetus. This stuff came properly packaged and was super dry when I received it, so I was able to print it right away and get some really nice prints out of it. I printed out my same dog bone specimen and tried pulling it apart, and it actually broke my test machine because it was so strong. So I don't actually know the real limits of this material because I wasn't able to break it with the test setup that I have. This carbon fiber nylon is less dense than your typical 3D printer filament. It's stiffer, it holds up to temperature better, and it's stronger. So it's pretty much better in every way. The only downsides is it's kind of expensive and it requires a high temperature nozzle and hot end to print with. So this stuff prints at over 300 degrees Celsius, which means that your typical Ender 3 won't be able to print it unless you upgrade the firmware and upgrade the hot end to handle higher temperatures. Here's the print quality. You can see it's pretty nice. It's got a nice matte surface finish. And here's another object that I printed. It's got nice clean lines. Doesn't perform super well on overhangs or when printing support material, but that's why Phaetus also sells this special support material that you're supposed to use with the carbon fiber nylon. Apparently it pulls away from the carbon fiber nylon really easily, so support material removal is super simple, and you can support overhanging features and bridges, so it really helps compensate for the weakness of carbon fiber at printing those kind of features. So this will be a great filament to use for structural applications where you need high performance, like in aerospace parts or research projects if you're an engineering student. So this is really good stuff, and I'm looking forward to using more of it in the future. Okay, and I've got one more category that I'd like to cover, and that's the most misunderstood product of 2021. I reviewed this artillery Hornet. Since I was having issues with stringing, I decided to turn the retraction settings up, and that just made things worse and worse, and I was getting jamming issues, and I was just really disappointed with the performance overall. So I did my test prints and made my video, but after publishing that video and looking at the results that some other people were getting, I noticed that they were getting excellent print quality out of this machine. So I discovered that my issue was, instead of increasing the retraction distance to try and deal with that stringing, I should have actually slightly reduced the retraction distance. The problem was that I was retracting too much filament, and that's what was causing the extrusion issues. So after changing my print settings and reducing the retractions to 2.5 millimeters, I was able to get pristine prints out of this machine in its stock configuration. I'm still not a big fan of the proprietary cable that they used to connect the hot end to the extruder, but overall I prefer having real wires so that it makes things a little bit easier to mod. So sorry Artillery, I kind of misunderstood this printer. I would actually recommend it. It's a pretty good machine if you don't plan on doing any mods to it. So yeah, that's the most misunderstood product of 2021. So thanks for watching this video on some of the best and worst 3D printer products of 2021. And hopefully I gave you some ideas of how to treat yourself, or maybe some ideas of what to get other people for gifts this holiday season. If you like what I do, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my next video where I'll be talking about my favorite tools for 3D printing and electronics. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.